thought, hey, that's a nice. Oh yeah, okay. I thought that's a nice frame, but I can use that frame to put in my experience, so that I have a frame, so that I can have a better focus
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
me and the interpreter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's great that you are finding places in, our day-to-day lives to
Yeah.
identify these little specks of solar consciousness.
Yes.
But there are things that would be impossible. For example,
Hmm.
some things that Alejandra does, of course, we can find in our lives. But when we're talking about, I don't know, periodic table, the levels of the periodic table, we're talking about organezon, we're talking about, the different functions, every element and the description of Ale and everything. We're not going to be able to find that in our everyday lives, because
Yeah.
this has to do with all the previous scales, the codification prior to us being able to experience life as we know it, right?
Yes.
So there are, like, most of LGC is related to that, like to antimatter codification
Yeah.
and, subatomic instance logic. So for us to be able to, I mean, yeah, to apply it in our daily lives, there are some things we can find. But yeah, I don't know if you guys feel that way, but like, or see it that way, but mostly, you
Yeah.
know, when Ale talks about Andromeda and like the octave being modified or updated or expanded, all of that, we're talking subatomic level.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
So, but yeah, I think the important part here is the resonance aspect, and us being able to find ourselves in the description of what the instruction uh, um, does with Alejandra and what Alejandra
Yeah.
tries to describe. And then we find ourselves identified with that. What does that mean? It
Yes.
means that our subatomic aspect, our particular subatomic aspect, has reached a point uh, that it wants, like, to evolve. It wants to scale up. It wants to make a shift or align to the expansion of the universe.
Yeah.
That is what resonating with LGC kind of means to every one of us. Seeing each one of us as a subatomic particle and aligning ourselves to this solar consciousness expansion and reconfiguration and such, well, it means that we are deciding to take this challenge, which is existence, to exist, to take this gravitational leap into existence and be like, okay, yes, I want to exist. I want this challenge and I want to evolve. Okay. So we do that and we start to define ourselves particularly and to create our own subatomic identity.
Wow.
So this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're beginning to define ourselves as subatomic particles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice say. Nice saying.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
It's recorded too, so we can
Yeah.
go back and
Yeah,
listen
that's
to
fine.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So yeah, I think one of the things that I thought was really important that Ale said in the last program was, like, they asked, what does this mean? Like, what is the reconfiguration of the periodic table? What does it mean? And then Ale, she gives a really short answer, and she's just like, oh, new physical laws. So
Yeah.
we're just
Okay.
like, okay, what? And I was reasoning this yesterday. I was thinking about that, and I was like, we don't even know what this means because we've never been alive through something like this before. Like, we are trying to, okay, we are trying to anticipate ourselves, we're trying to reason it, but we don't really actually know what it means. Like, what would it mean for there to be a shift in the physical laws? Well, this is the transcendence and the importance of the restructuring or reformulation of the periodic table.
Mhm.
And also another important thing is that, okay, when we talk about references, a reference system, well, now the periodic table becomes one of those main references. And our references before, since they used to be mystical symbolic, they now become technical, and they become measurable, and they become reasonable, understandable, and a lot of different levels, and those different levels converge, and all these things. And that means that the Solar Native Code is taking charge now of its own board, of its own control board of its local reality, when before, we've talked about this a lot, how the sun was young and its code wasn't very good, and these interferences install themselves as using the solar credit to project themselves in here, etc. Well, today is a really important day because Ale has been talking about this day for so long. Day 225 of the year, which corresponds to the 12th of August, which is, first day of lap 15. Yesterday, let me share the screen with you. So we've talked about this, but it's good to just go over it again. So we know how we've been going through the reconfiguration of the periodic table, which means everything began with Oganesson, which is 118, and then 119, right? 119 to the left of the helium, and then from there to the left all the way to the hydrogen, and then filling up these spaces. Well, yesterday it was like the reconfig, or the going through the last black space of the periodic table, which was 224. The day of the year of yesterday, the 11th of August, was 224. So today, where we are standing on day 225. And Ale has been talking about this day a lot, because she's like, we are stepping into a brand new lane of the periodic table. And like we are standing there, and we are aware of that fact. Like we have the consciousness of this, even though we might not be understanding it fully. Of course not. We can't understand it fully, because this is something that the solar consciousness and mind is doing, right? And we're just here observing it and trying to follow it, trying to find the logical route of this reconfiguration, because of course the solar consciousness is of a completely different hierarchy than us. But here, as little subatomic particles, we're trying to reason, we're trying to integrate this logic that is a native to our anatomic scale where we were born and raised. So we are learning about this. So it doesn't mean that we're going to understand exactly what this means. But we can start to integrate slowly the logic of the how things happen. So we are very, I would say, privileged to be able to stand on this day and also know what this day means. We can say that the 12th of August is the day where the seventh lane, there was a cloning of the seventh lane of the periodic table placed in between the 6th and the 8th, right? And Alejandra did this precisely so that francium, which its number is 87, corresponded to the 8th lane. So now we have the actual francium, like the last level of the periodic table. We have it all the way in the bottom, right? So right now we could say we're going to be going through this all through lap 15 and lap 16. This is a total of 32 days. And the last day of this is day 256, which is also corresponds to bibliotecario and programador. Bibliotecario has to do, I don't know if Girge are you familiar with conocimiento and librarian and programmer and librarian?
Conocimiento, yes.
Mhm.
But the other librarian and not.
Okay, so conocimiento, right?
Yeah.
Let's make a little review. Conocimiento is like knowledge. And society, the social consciousness, understands knowledge as something that's fixed in the past, something that we used to have in the past. So every time we look for knowledge, we look for it in the past.
Yeah.
Somebody wise that had all the answers, and we go over there and look for knowledge. But
Yes.
Alejandra has been opening up this concept and updating it and sort of like eliminating the fixed understanding of what knowledge is and separating it into these two words, which is cone and foundation, right? So, conocimiento, separating the word conocimiento in Spanish, translates into cono and foundation, cone and foundation. So, the cone has the function of reception of signals. But this is about some new stuff, everything new.
Yeah.
And the foundation has the task of storing, documenting the like the memory spaces where all these signals that are being received, they come in and they get organized and they get documented. And this is what allows us to exist. It's very important to have a foundation, to have all our documents there. Right? Well, in this case, it's obviously Earth, the one that does that, not us. Earth is the one that saves all of our gravitational documents, what are our gravitational documents? Signals that have been received by the cone and stored and documented by the librarian. So the one that receives in the cone is a programmer. And the one that is in charge of organizing and storing and documenting is the librarian.
Ah, yes.
Right? Okay. So another interesting thing, bibliotecario and programador, they are both celebrated on that day, 256. Wait, I need to find that day. 1 second. I forgot the exact dates. I'm just gonna go look for it.
Program librarian.
Okay, so the 12th of September, which is an exact month from today, we have day 256. And on regular years, the 11th of September, people celebrate the Day of the Librarian. And funny enough, programmers celebrate on day 256, they celebrate the Day of the Programmer. And there's a reason for that. The programmers acknowledge the Day of the Programmer on that day because 256 is the amount of, this is hard because it's programmer and I don't even get it very much, but 256, I think, has to do with the amount of bits that fit into like a segment in a in just like the structure of the way they program. 256 is like a specific number of bits that fit into a specific segment. So it is really like they have a reason for selecting that day. So when Alejandra found that out, like it is really cool when we find, I don't know, when we find metrics in society, or when we find situations that align with LGC, and how do they align? When they take into consideration metrics from actual metrics, like it's not just symbolic or arbitrary, right? They selected that day for a purpose, and there was a reason for that. But the funny thing was that the programmers and the librarians chose the exact same day, and they didn't even know about it, right? Okay, so day 256 corresponds to the last day of lab 16. So there's like this amazing, huge configuration that's going on right now, right? Regarding the Solar Native Code. And this is what we have been working on in LGC for so long, LGC has been working on this for 11 years. And the thing is that today is a day, and Ale has explained this, where Solar Native Code takes charge, like takes the wheel. And from 2012 and from 2021, it is as if every particularity has been mapped out, millimetrically mapped out. It has been observed very closely by the solar consciousness, so that when the sun did this shift, these particularities would be anticipated or prepared, so that when these shifts happen, they wouldn't impact us so much, right? So this is going to depend on the level of evolution or appetite, or the the state of the cycle in which the particularity is, how it is going to impact all of us, right? So Ale is like, okay, I can read the metrics, I can describe the logic of the frames, but I cannot, like, my limit is I cannot know how things are going to unfold or what's going to happen, because I'm not an oracle. Ale is not, Ale doesn't make predictions or any of that. She just reads code, right? So that's today. And she's going to record the red program today from La Plata. And another thing, today is George Soros's birthday, and he was invited by Alejandra to La Plata. Of course, probably he's not gonna get there, but it just means like, okay, George Soros, thank you for your service. Now the solar consciousness is gonna take charge now. Something like that. But Ale is there right now.
Okay.
Cool, huh? Hi, Nienke, also on holiday. I think her reception's not very good. You're freezing, but can you hear us? Yeah. Yeah, her reception. Okay. Oh,
Like a robot.
crazy. Yeah, that's so crazy. Okay.
Ik kan je niet verstaan, Nienke.
No, but she was even muted.
Oh.
That's so crazy. I can't even mute her. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh. That's so crazy. Okay, hold on.
Nienke, kan je jezelf muten?
No, she can't. Okay, I guess we're just gonna have to wait until it allows me to mute it, because if not, I'm gonna have to end the meeting and like start it back. That's so crazy.
Yeah, now is she mute? Huh?
Okay,
No,
she's
it's
mute.
muted.
It's muted, but there you go. We can still hear the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good. We're good. Okay, that was so crazy. Okay,
Okay.
let's get to our questions. Marjolaine says she's not gonna make it. Okay.
Oh yay.
I'm gonna remove her from. No, I don't want to report her. Oh, there. Sorry, I had to remove you, Nienke. You were causing a lot of technical issues. Okay. First question from Nienke is why exactly was it Ale couldn't read the real name of her grandmother? You know, this anecdote from Ale's grandmother and all. This one was a tricky one for me as well. But my understanding was, do you guys remember when Alejandra first started explaining this thing about the attosecond, right? The attosecond is a new way to measure, right? And if I'm not remembering or wrong, I think it has to do with the ability to locate a subatomic particle, because you know that previously, 1 second. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this notion that when a subatomic particle is being observed, it changes its behavior. Right? So when they were trying, like scientists were trying to do these experiments, they found out that when the particle was being observed, it could behave either as a particle or as a wave. So if it was a wave, it could be in 20 million different places all at once, right? Wait, let me just remember what yeah, so if we observe an electron cloud from the anatomic perspective, it's going to look like a cloud. It's going to be like, we're not going to know exactly where the where the electron is because of our conditions here in the anatomic level. But if there's an observation that from the subatomic level, of course, they're going to know, like that observer is going to know the exact position of that electron. So Ale is saying that this electron cloud wouldn't allow her to read her grandmother's name. So it was kind of like I don't know how to explain it, or even because it was hard for me to reason this also to understand what Ale meant. But it does have to do with that, like how do we know the exact position of an electron when an electron is a subatomic particle, and also if we are here in the anatomic instance, it's going to be hard to do that, right? So, and also Ale said that it could also be a sort of like an interference for her not to be able to see her grandmother's name. And once she was able to see it, to be more precise in the observation, a lot of stuff came out from that. All the stuff that she shared, the stuff with the saint and this, all the Consuelo, remember that? Like all that decodification that she pulled out from her grandmother's name. And also an important thing is that it came out from there, but then it moved into a completely different scale, right? It moved from the scale of the clan of Alejandra, and it moved into the solar consciousness scale. So those two things don't have anything to do with each other. It was just like a trigger for her to be able to figure out all these other stuff that came afterwards, right? But yeah, the most I can say regarding the electron cloud is the ability to locate the exact position of a subatomic particle or not. From the anatomic or from the anatomic scale, and scientific limitations, of course, that's going to be close to impossible. But from the solar perspective, the solar consciousness knows exactly where an electron is at all times. It's going to know, right? So having the logic of the frames and us being trained towards that, like it's going to eventually enable us to locate, like to locate these things that before were a blur or a cloud or cloudy will slowly become clearer, right? And this is also what Ale keeps saying about the transparentation process of the matrix. It was all a blur before. It was all a cloud of subatomic particles. Now everything is becoming more and more clear. And this is also related to subatomic particles defining themselves. She's been talking about that, how this
Denise, can
transition.
you let Nienke in again? She will
Uh,
mute herself immediately.
Sorry?
She asked for it. Can you let Nienke in? She will mute herself at that time immediately. If you...
I don't see her, like I don't see her entering.
Yeah, she said I can't get in because she has me put out.
Okay, let me get her back in. I can't. Okay. Why can't I send the link? Invite. Copy invite link. What? Okay, we never have technical difficulties in our meetings.
First time.
Okay, 1 second. Wait. There we go. I sent it. I sent it to her.
Yeah, I think now she's busy because she was online here and I talked to her and she saw it. So
Okay. I sent it. Okay, so going back to the definition of the subatomic particle is and the identity of a subatomic instance, Alice said that in this transition of, transparentation of the matrix and solar consciousness being in charge now and such, how much or how less that's going to impact every particularity will depend on the level of definition at a subatomic level each one has, or the level of anticipation we were capable to do. Okay, so Nienke can't join. I'm gonna have to end the meeting and then generate a new link.
Yeah.
So we'll come back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but good for Nienke. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell me where I was.
I don't know. I can't
Conocimiento, and what about the name Ella from her grandmother and the cloud?
Yeah.
The definition of the subatomic particle.
Yeah.
The definition of the subatomic particle.
Yeah.
So Ale said
Yes.
that in the measure where the subatomic particle has chosen to, you know, progress, scale, evolve, align itself to the expansion of the universe, will this transition impact them more or less, or will it be more elegant or less elegant? Because it is a big shock when she talks about shifts in the physical laws. I mean, the physical laws are what keeps our reality in the coherent state that we know it and understand it. It helps us maintain our sanity. I don't know if you guys have seen this film Interstellar, but like there is a
Yeah.
moment where the character reaches a certain plane where the laws of nature just the physical laws break, right? And
Yeah.
everything loses its coherency and like which is the glue that keeps us in our rightful minds, because we exist inside a frame, inside the laws of existence that keep everything in its place. I don't know if any of you have experienced any sort of like psychotic outbreaks or like, you know, mental health issues where you have been close to like being crazy. I don't know how else to put it, but like I have experienced it. So I like understand what feeling like you're crazy is,
Mm.
you know, and that is losing the grip on these laws. Is it could be like connecting to something else that you don't understand. So this is why this whole instruction has been preparing us for this transition, so that we understand and know what's going on, so that it doesn't drive us crazy, so that it's not a shock, like a psychological shock. Because if we don't have a prepared space of reception of signals, if we don't like, if we haven't even begun to know that we have a psychic structure that, you know, receives the signals, organizes the signals, it impacts if we don't do that, it impacts directly into our psychology, in our bodies, psychology and in our bodies. So it's like big impact. We don't know what's going on. We don't understand. We're just going into this huge shift. A lot of things like all these stuff that's going on in society, so much is going on. So a lot of people are losing their, like, they're like, what is going on? A lot of people are either depressed or really, really high levels of anxiety. A lot of people are also committing suicide or murdering each other. So many of these things are happening. I mean, being with LGC for so long, it is a ticket for having a little peace of mind, because it doesn't actually mean that we are exempt from anything. We are not. We just have a little bit, an extra pixel to have a little bit of more understanding, a little bit of what's going on than the rest. And it may help us just keep our grip on reality and just follow through and understanding that sun itself, like the container itself, is going through a very important shift. So we don't know what this might translate into when we talk about in social terms. I mean, we have seen it, all the things that have been happening in society, with the wars and like Ukraine and then Congo and Palestine and all of that. And it all has to do with this new control, new administration, like this shift in the administration, and Sun trying to make it soft, to make this transition soft, right? So another question from
Geertje.
Kirche. Okay. Perfect. Got it. Kirche. Okay, scalability. Well,
Yeah.
like to keep it simple, just scalability would be the ability to escalate. Scale ability. Escalate where or how or to where. Of course, there is no possibility for scalability without space-temporal formation, without space-temporal notions. And basically what scalability means is that is the ability or the capacity to improve a little pixel every day.
Okay.
And how do we do that? Like, how could we achieve that? Well, first, accepting that the actual references, the technical references that support our existence have to do with the solar consciousness, which is, our immediate context, our container solar system. And if we start to take these things as references, and every day we inhabit every day knowing that every day has a specific potential, a specific task, a specific transference from the solar consciousness, if we are able to connect to each day as something brand new, and subsequently to every year as a new year and not just a repetition of last year, or today just a repetition of yesterday, because sometimes people live like that. They just live every day, every single day is a loop. Every year is a loop. So why? Because their connection to the entorno is blocked. They have no connection to it. So they're just living in a loop. And of course, this will have to do a lot with like the configuration of the particle, like what was the reason for the particle to insert itself in this experience? Was that person just wanting experience? Like there's so many things prior to being born. And some of these particles are just like promised because, we are mainly imaginary, naturally imaginary. So this seduction for existing, there are several, we could say, consciousness out there that seduce subatomic particles and be like, oh, you're imaginary? Do you want to feel something? Do you want to exist? Yes. Okay, here, take this train and you can go into existence. But they didn't know in what existence they're going to project themselves into. So this could also happen. There's so many things happening and so many variables in the subatomic instance and the subatomic particles that project themselves into experience. There are so many variables, and we may all look the same physically, but in our configuration and our codifications, these things have infinite variabilities, right? So scalability is basically like when a particle decides, because there's a decision, and it decides to evolve, to take the challenge of existing gravitationally and evolve. And to be able to do something like this, there needs to be space-temporal notions and space-temporal education, which is where we are at now. We're babies there. We're just being born in our space-temporal education, in our scalar growth. So yeah, I think that most of us in LGC can actually account this scalability. Me personally, I can tell you from 2017 that I began with LGC up to now, which is 7 years now. Yeah, 7, 8.
Yes.
I can account for this pixel by pixel shift and scalability, scalar growth. And I can say that it is a growth that not only corresponds to my personal identity or anatomic identity. No, it is a growth that is just at every scale. I can say that. I can say that there has been a growth. I can't say like, oh, I've grown so much. No, but I can do like, even if it's 1 pixel, I have grown, even if it's just 1. But yeah, definitely there needs to be space-temporal concepts formed. And not only that, they need to be documented, like gravitationally documented as well, like installed, not just theoretically. just like up in the air and like, or just because I think that I can reason or understand something doesn't mean I actually do. Because then the test comes when I think and I get cocky and I'm like, oh, I get everything, I understand anything. The test from reality comes and you're like, oh, and there is when you realize the actual resources you actually have. When the situation from reality comes and audits you and you're like, you thought you knew something or you thought you were somewhere. And then reality is like, no, you're not. This is where you actually are. Okay. But yeah, is that a little better, the concept of scalability?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Good. Okay, Nienke says, I loved her explanation about the frames and focus. Can you also talk about that again? The question was, what are the frames? And for me, these types of questions are so they're surprising to me because Ale has been talking about this. Like, if it's a person that it's new, that's okay. But like, if it's a person that has been around for a long time and they're asking about that, I'm just so surprised because she's been explaining this for a long time, and like we should actually know this by now. But this analogy that she used, I thought was really good too. Like Nienke said, the thing with the analogy with like the camera, I took some analogic photography lessons, right? And it's not the same like when you just grab your phone and you just take pictures, but when you have an analogic camera, you actually have to do it manually. If not, you ruin your film and you don't get anything. You're overexposed or you're underexposed in your film. So when you get like the perfect focus and the perfect frame, you get the really great picture. Yeah, so the thing with the frame, but you know what? For me, it was really good that she cleared this out because sometimes I would confuse frame with entorno. And frames, when she says frames and the way she explained it now, it is just like a specific application for the observer, right? Like a microscope. You are adjusting the lenses to what you want to observe. So if you want to observe from the perspective of the solar, consciousness, then the logic of the frames through which you're going to be observing is going to be different than if you are observing something from the perspective of the analogic instance, which has a different logic, right? The subatomic instance is going to have a different logic than the anatomic instance. So that is kind of like what she was trying to explain a little bit, is you have to be able, this is what the el intérprete does. It modifies the frames to be able to observe a specific thing, and it has to know what scale of observation it is so that it can know what logic to apply to that observation and to that interpretation. And I have seen how difficult it has been in the community. It has been hard for all of us to do that, to learn how to do this. But the minute, like, even if we just understand one thing, there are many different scales and we cannot apply the same logic to all of the scales. If we start there, then we can start working on the construction of the concepts and understanding the different logics of the subatomic. But starting from there, that there are different levels and every level has a different logic. Okay, and try to understand from what place I am understanding something. But the best way to do this is listening to Alejandra, because Alejandra moves her observer from here to here to here to here to here to here to here constantly. So like for me, it is a very useful exercise to just follow Alejandra and try to understand from where she is saying things. Because she can start from the solar days the solar calendar days, doing from that, and then she can go talk about a specific human of the plane or a situation, and then a situation from the analogic, and then a situation from here, and she moves around all the time. So following Alejandra's reasoning is a very good exercise. Like if I put my focus there and be like, okay, I'm gonna try to see from where Alejandra's speaking, from what scale Alejandra's speaking, like what is she referring to? Because when she's talking about solar native code, that has nothing to do with humans. Nothing. We're just learning about the mechanism of the solar native code, but it has nothing to do with us. We are the last link of the chain. And everything that happens before that, we are slowly gaining consciousness about it and access about it. But we're still very fresh, like we don't know much about it. But at least we have the consciousness or the evolutionary state to understand that we are the last link. And everything we're learning about has to do with other levels where we're not even persons yet. There's no people there. We just have elements. We just have hydrogens. We just have particles, right? So yeah, in the RED program, it's very common that people make these kinds of questions, but it is good that they do, because Ale always brings new stuff and new perspectives to it. And even though, like, even for me, like I thought frame, frame and entorno and all of that, and that separation is crucial. And this happens all the time in LGC and in the Spanish language. That's why translating it to a different language, it is we have to do it very carefully, because even in Spanish, Alejandra separates words and gives completely different meanings to words that are synonyms. When we look at just like the structure of the language, they're used as synonyms, right? And we're used to that. But then Ale takes it and decodifies it and applies it to specific notions and concepts. And the differentiation is so important that we cannot use them as synonyms anymore. Like I cannot say environment and entorno and setting and ambiente and say the same thing, because it's not. Like in LGC, it's not the same. So that's why, for example, for the word entorno, I try to say entorno. I used to say setting in English. And it kind of works, I feel like, but it will never be as accurate as entorno, So it's better to start introducing slowly words in Spanish, so that, psychologically and psychically, it makes a better, grip in our reasoning, because the bottom line is that LGC is transferring itself in Spanish. That is the bottom line. So it's always better to do it in Spanish, but since we can't, there's a restriction there. We do our best, and I think it's getting good. I think it is a very the movement from English to Spanish that we do, me and David, it is quite good. We try to do the best we can, and I do think that we're very respectful with it, because I feel like that is like the main thing. We should be very, very respectful with it. So yeah, the frames and the focus, yeah. So yeah, according to the frames, and the frames are not going to move by themselves. They need to be driven by someone, right? And who's that someone? Well, my interpreter. I need to be like, if there's nobody there to receive a new signal or to observe something, then the frame is never going to shift, and it's always going to be looking at the same thing. Like it's because it has no references. It doesn't have the capacity to update, to integrate new references of observation, right? So if I don't have any new references to which I can observe something, then I'm always going to be observing the same thing, right? It is like, okay, I have a tree in front of my house and I have looked at that tree for years and I always see the same tree, right? But then one day I am like, oh, I think I'm gonna take a botanics course. And then I start learning characteristics about that tree. And then after a year, I look at that tree and I'm not gonna see the same tree. I'm gonna see more deeply into the tree, like what actual characteristics of it. See, so the frames are gonna depend on how much we grow our concepts and how much we are able to differentiate every scale of observation, right? So yeah, that's a good one. Next concept, hydrogen from Hirche.
Yeah.
Hirche. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, I did something. Now I hear you not loud, but it's my problem.
oh, okay.
My son called in. Oh,
Can you
you
hear
hear
us?
me, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear
Oh.
you.
Okay. I can hear you like I'm not on the speaker. I can't find speaker.
Oh, that's probably it. Take your time.
Yes. Thank you. Got it.
You got it? Okay, good. Okay. So what's your question about hydrogen?
Can you explain more about hydrogen? For me, it's new. I didn't heard it before.
Mm.
Hydrogen in the logic.
Oh, okay. Well, it's basically the element number 1 in the periodic
Okay.
and it is the most common element in existence.
Okay.
One really cool thing that sort of like organized my understanding of, well, I could say myself, is that society educates us to us wanting to believe that we have an extraordinary origin.
Hmm.
When in reality, our origins are as common as can be. And what is that common origin we all have? It's hydrogen.
Okay.
Hydrogen is the most basic form of existence there is. Because prior to hydrogen, we have non-existence, right? There is like, there's nothing simpler than hydrogen, we could say.
Hmm. Okay.
Right? So hydrogen is like our most common origin. So this is
Yeah.
this thing that I said that really organized the way I understood things was, okay, society educates us to make us believe that we have an extraordinary origin and that we're gonna have, but what does that mean? If our origin is extraordinary, then our destination or destiny is gonna be shitty. It's gonna be bad because our origin is already extraordinary. But if we shift that logic and say that our origin is quite common, then our destiny or our destination can be quite extraordinary. See?
Hmm.
So there's a shift there in the logic of in the
Yeah.
right? Our origin is common, it's hydrogen. We all come from there, right? And the thing is, another analogy that Alejandra uses a lot is, okay, hydrogens can only expand themselves if they choose, right? So there's gonna be a lot of particles over here choosing just to go back to the antimatter because they just don't want the challenge. They don't want to evolve. They don't want to align with this process of expansion or anything. Like they're not choosing to do it. So what are they choosing? They're just choosing to go back to the imaginary land where they're perfect, right? So we're gonna be seeing so many things, so many variables, like we said earlier, variables in the configurations of the particles, of the appetites, the evolutionary instances of the souls, and the will also. The will. Do I have the will? Do I want to? Do I choose to or not?
Okay.
And well, matrix is what holds our existence together. It is
Okay.
like what keeps coherence, what interconnects everything and maintains existing. Without matrix, things wouldn't be able to continue existing. They would just appear and disappear, appear and disappear, appear and disappear, as they do in the primary unfoldment. Primary unfoldment is nothing, everything, something.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Something can imagine, and there's no process and there's no residue. It's infinite and it's perfect all the time. The thing is that when that something wants to generate something of its own, it separates itself from the primary source and creates, that is how universes are created. In the secondary unfoldment, it is like a particle that separated itself from the primary source and wanting to create something that it's of its own, with the credit of space of nothingness and the flow of signals from everything, right? So doing that codifies into something else. something from the primary to something else, secondary unfoldment, and that is the universe of the somethings. So matrix, it is a construct of the secondary unfoldment that allows us for past, present, and future to exist, to separate time, because in the primary unfoldment, there is no such thing. It's just present, ever present.
Yeah.
Secondary unfoldment allows us to separate the times so that we can experience material experience. So matrix allows that. But the thing with matrix is that it has a specific well, in the past, it had a specific configuration, and it was a mix with Solar Native Code and foreign code. There was a mix there. Like Solar Native Code tried to do its own configuration of that matrix, but then the foreign code kind of like went in there and made this mess in there. And that's why humans cannot explain their own existence. We have and all these questions about the origin of our lives, and with LGC, all these things are being cleared up. It's
Wow.
it shouldn't have been a mystery in the first place. Like humans should be able to account for their own existence and evolution. So hopefully we will, moving forward, like if we don't know how this is going to unfold, or as natives of 400 apparatuses, how this is going to work for us, we don't know. But hopefully humans will be able to give account for their own evolution, and like explain how they went through this whole dark era of humanity, and not understanding anything about our own existence, and being blocked in all the other levels, and being blocked in our own central axis, re-axis, connecting to our own origins, and all of these interferences. Well, now we can use all of those to capitalize and to move forward, and to use those faults and failures to codify better, to learn to codify better. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's basically all the questions we have. But another thing that Ale has been talking about is, the reset. And she said, she spoke about that in the meeting, in the program. So one thing is an external source reset is going to be different than a Solar Native Code reset. What we are experiencing with the periodic table, we could say that it is Solar Native Code reset. And a Solar Native Code reset is going to be completely different, because Solar Native Code, or Solar Consciousness, has the interest of interconnecting its content of synchronizing our gravitational documents, it wants the SE quadrant to function beautifully. That's like the goal of that would mean that the solar code is of really good quality. If the SE quadrant worked and functioned really, really good, that would mean success for the solar consciousness. If we're talking about a reset from the external source perspective, it just means that it kind of like wants to erase everything we have grown or learned, or being really close to discovering the truth and just wanting to erase our memories. And that is very dangerous, like, because our memories are what allows us to evolve and to scale up and to move forward. And resetting and like giving us amnesia, which has been done before, to my understanding, with this 10-day removal of the solar calendar and such things, or the leap seconds. This has to do with these external source resources, which have the purpose of just keeping control or keeping this opaque matrix. We must also keep in mind that this is not bad, like they are not villains or evil. This is just like a space-temporal thing, space-temporal situation, things you encounter with in existence. And for the solar consciousness, it is just like getting better at a sport. It helps it improve its code. So now Andromeda helping out Sun, improving its code. Hopefully it achieves it, and this would mean that we would be entering a whole new era. And we can't even imagine what that would be like. We can't even imagine, because it's never happened something like that before. So yeah, hopefully we're alive to see it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
And is this day then there more influence from the sun now? Is there more influence from the sun from this day on? It's more open?
That's the idea. I mean, Ali has said that we have
Mhm.
been preparing for this for 11 years.
Yeah.
For solar consciousness to take actual control of its code. And also it doesn't mean that there will no longer be any interference. No, I
Right,
mean,
true,
there will be,
true.
because, right, we
Yeah.
need it, because interference shows us where our code is weak.
Yeah. But it's
So
can be more open now, more.
open? What do you mean?
Yeah, that the reception is more clearer.
It may be like we don't know how that's gonna be. We are gonna have to wait and see
Yeah.
how this shift is gonna impact on
Yeah.
us, and it's gonna have a different impact depending on each particle, each person's configuration and
Yeah.
anticipation and all of that, and like concept creation, and it's gonna depend, like depending on all of those things, variables, we're gonna be seeing how this shift affects each one of us particularly, because it's not gonna be like an influence for the masses. It's it's a very particular era where we're gonna have to need to develop ourselves particularly, where
Yeah.
before we are more used to using the logic of the pack, of the, group logic, or like
Yeah. Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
with, if that person
Yeah.
does something,
Yeah.
we're still leaving that logic, and it's very
Yeah.
internalized, and we might not identify it yet, but like it's hard to leave it. Same
Mm.
same as shifting from that symbolic reference
Yeah.
system
True.
to more technical. It is not something that it's done easily,
Mm.
but it will depend on each particularity, how it affects us. But interference, this is also something that really helped me organize myself from the beginning. Was interference is interference from one side, but from the other side it's update. Because if
Yeah.
I know how to manage it and to capitalize it, then I'm going to be able to grow from it and to improve my my personal codification, right?
I'm still digesting that my body knows it too, but yeah, I know it. But my body sometimes.
Your body is tense.
No, not tense. It's very hot here. It's no, no,
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said, sorry.
very
Sorry.
hot here. It's hot,
Oh,
40
okay.
degrees. I think
Oh,
it's
okay.
now
Yeah.
37.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, my body is not tense, but I know, I feel that what I know from the interference here, I still have to digest that my body knows it
Oh,
too.
oh, yeah. It still needs to get through.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one really helped me. I remember the first time I reasoned that part, I was like, oh, you know, these
yeah,
like tiny realizations.
yeah.
And that's what makes scalability. That's what makes it.
Ah,
These
that's
little
what,
pixels of realization, these little, that's why Ale focuses so much in the creation of concepts, because these are the pixels that are gonna make up the frames of observation. And that's what's gonna allow us to observe more and more details about existence, understanding the levels of existence and such. And so that later we can become really good programmers.
yeah,
And not just for our own personal life, but like for the global, for the
yeah.
improvement of the global codification, right? Which is like the roles open, the potentials open for humanity in relation to solar consciousness, like helping solar consciousness improve its codification, improve the codification of its local reality. Yeah,
Wow.
that's a huge potential for humans.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
But see, like, if the human species has the capacity to destroy the third orbital, then it has the capacity to improve it
for
structurally, improve
sure.
its codification,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that's where particularly we have to choose. There's choice,
yeah.
because no
True.
one is gonna impose this on us. That is the paradigm of the express universe and the 400 apparatuses where power equals control and force and violence. This is the past. Future is decision, will. I want to choose to
Mm,
move forward. I want to choose to grow. I want to choose to continue this densification, because to evolve, another really important concept that Ale clarifies a lot, to evolve is to densify.
it's to densify.
So that's why, like, see how there was a cloning of another level of the periodic table. That is densifying. That is like
Yeah.
technically what it means to densify. Like there's a new level of density in the periodic table. So it
And that is
means
the first day now that the new row is today. It's today. It's the first.
today. That's why, we're very privileged to be able to be standing on this day and being able to reason these things.
It's also interesting that the energy also everything went to here today, not to the last of the lab,
Oh,
but to this
The
day.
meeting. The meeting, you mean?
Yeah, the meeting here. Yeah, interesting.
Interesting too.
Yeah,
That we landed on this day to do the meeting.
yeah. We landed here. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Because, sometimes when Ale points out a specific date or something, like a metric and such, and then the day comes and sometimes we're like, oh, okay, this is the day. Like, what should I be expecting something, or what should I
Yeah,
do? Right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
for me, the best way to spend a day like that is just concept creation, working on my concepts,
yeah,
working on
yeah.
listening, working on my understanding. That is like just the best way I can spend my day.
And that is
Receptive.
very good to do this all in red on this day.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
And probably they're probably recording it right now. Like they should probably be recording it close to these days.
The new one.
These hours, sorry.
Yeah.
The new one, yeah, it's gonna come out today. So
Oh,
yeah, I am gonna try to record it as quickly as I can. And I hope it's not too long.
yeah,
Sometimes-
Yeah.
oh my God, when I see the 2 hours, I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But this one that was good in two parts.
Mhm.
It was very good.
Yeah, when it's long, I'm just like, okay, it's fine. I'll just do it in two parts, and it's a lot
Yeah.
easier. And it's
Yeah.
also good for you guys because I feel the need to send it out as soon as possible for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, the first part, you hear it and it's good.
Yeah.
And you know, it I think it's good. Like it's working out that way.
Yeah.
It helped me
It's so
dosing
fun.
because sometimes
Dosing.
I read it all and then it's like
Yeah, sometimes it's too much. Nienke
Yeah.
Nienke says good. He likes the 2 parts too. Yeah, so hopefully it's not too long. Yeah, I will have it out as soon as we can. It was really good to see you on this day.
Yeah.
So
Thank
happy
you very
that
much.
you.
Denise.
that we did it. And you know,
Yeah.
just keep your antenna, your parabolic antenna attentive because
But
solar
you say parabolic antenna?
parabolic
antenna?
antenna. Remember the parabolic? The parabolic is the one that receives signals from the cosmos.
Oh yeah.
That I really missed. So
Oh, yeah. We
good
have
that
like
you
the
say.
antenna because there are different levels, right? And like we could use our antenna to receive each other's signal,
Ah,
antenna to receive Earth signals, future, past, and then all the different levels of the RI.
mm.
So the highest point of our antenna, that's gonna be our parabolic. The highest point
Parabolic.
is gonna be my particular RI scope, and we're all gonna have a different.
Different one to receive. That is a
So
good one for the end. That I
Yeah.
really missed. Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah. All right, ladies. Well, really good to see you, and
Yeah,
we'll see
thank you
each
very
other
much.
soon in 16 days approximately.
Yeah. Happy holiday, Nienke.
Fijne
Keep
vakantie.
enjoying your
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
holiday. Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.